Everyone, welcome to our second character in this series of running acts 1 through 3 on hardcore. This time I'm running a Huntress and I'm interested in the parry mechanic. I skim the ability, go out into the first zone, and I'm looking to use it here. I'm familiar with block, I've played a bunch of warrior. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I'm clearly missing something. But instead of focusing on parry, I decided to re-roll and just remove it from my bars. I've yet to play Huntress, so I was interested in just the spear abilities in general. Looking at the tree, it seemed like there were a few notables that prompted you to use a melee attack into a ranged attack, so that was going to be my plan. Looking at the abilities that are available to you at low levels, I focused on using Explosive Spear for the ranged attack. Retreat is a support gem that also synergizes using a melee attack into a ranged attack, while Overabundance allows us to have 2 Explosive Spears out at one time. The melee attack I decided to go for was Whirling Slash, as well as the support gem Pursuit, which again synergizes with using a ranged attack into a melee attack. The overall design of the build is to go into melee, stack up some rage, stack up some Whirling Slash stages, bounce out with Disengage, and then throw a few Explosive Spheres. Turns out Disengage is an insane movement ability, and after moving on and trying other characters, I kind of miss it on every other character that I've played. The final ability that I use at some points, which we'll definitely come back to later, is Cull the Weak. Cull the Weak allows you to cull an enemy, and then it grants you a frenzy charge if you get the kill. I didn't really find myself using it that much, but the reason why you'd use it is because it synergizes with Explosive Spear. If you have a frenzy charge, Explosive Spear consumes it to just instantly explode into a much larger explosion radius. Overall, I had a ton of fun with this setup in Act 1. It felt really strong, and it also felt really fast. You could use Whirling Slash to close the gap, and then you can use Disengage to jump over enemies, jump away from enemies. Basically, Disengage is your escape. But it could also just be used as your movement into, I don't know, it's an all-around incredible skill. Disengage is the reason why you'd want to run spears, in my opinion. Let's jump into the Act 1 boss fight and see how it goes. Overall, I really liked playing this character. I would definitely run it again at the start of a league. It does feel like melee damage is a lot more consistent to hit, but you're definitely getting hit for smaller damage more consistently as well with the boss's auto attacks. Part of how I tried to force myself to use melee and then bounce out to ranged was adding the rage support gem to Whirling Slash. That just meant I had more incentive to stay in melee, stack a few times, jump out, and then go back into melee. Part of learning how to play this build is to understand when you should do that and when you should just stay at ranged. And actually thinking about it, one of the biggest things that I learned from my previous run for this Act 1 boss fight is make sure you just buy new flasks before you get to this boss. You can go to the vendor and buy the new large life flask as well as the large mana flask if you need mana. Huge help for this fight. Same as before, phase 1, a little bit boring. I did have to relearn, his attack patterns on melee, but overall pretty easy. The difficulty definitely comes in phase 2 here, and I believe I have some kind of panic moment at some point, although it wasn't nearly as bad as how I felt on the Sork. One thing I hope they do better in the future is the transitions from these phase 1 to phase 2. I don't know if it's because of the RP that happens or what, but it does get really tiring to damage a boss or attempt to damage a boss that's just straight up invincible. Again, another tip for this fight. It should be pretty obvious once you've done it a few times, but he does a ton of cold damage. So focus on trying to get your cold res up before you do it. One major thing to note about this Howl phase that I picked up is you should definitely be standing on the edge. It allows you more time to dodge. He basically charges you from the opposite side. I think that was where some of the timing consistency was happening on my other playthrough, but basically once he's done doing his voice line, if you're standing on the edge, it should give you enough time to cleanly dodge his charge attack. It's at this point I'd like to get you guys to like, subscribe, whatever you want to do in the video, leave some comments. I am trying to turn this into a series, something that I can replicate a bunch, just keep leveling new classes, move forward on it. And it would really help if I got some positive feedback. And if you guys do that, I promise to hopefully stop dying in these videos. My goal is to get faster, but also get better. So hopefully the combination of those two things can work together and not just make it so that the faster I go, the worse I get. But I don't know, we'll see. I do want to bring up this ability briefly because I'm using it on the boss fight. but you only get it at level 15, so we'll talk about it way more in Act 2. It empowers my next explosive spear to basically throw 2 spears instead of 1. If I had more limit, as well as frenzy charges, you could throw even more than 2. But for now I only throw 2, and it just allows me to take better advantage of the time I'm at ranged before I have to go back into melee. Instead of manually throwing 2, I can just throw 1 that applies to. Once again, this is the second Howl phase, and I do kind of panic, so if you guys are trying hardcore for the first time, this is going to be one of the major roadblocks in my opinion. When you're in this fight, when you're in this second Howl phase, sometimes if the boss is low enough, you're going to be getting hit with the corrupted blood pillars as well. For me, that wasn't even the case. I was just getting overwhelmed by these minions, caused me to dodge instead of dodging his charge. Overall, I felt like I played way better on this boss fight on the Huntress as opposed to the Sork. I think partly it's because I got better at the fight, but also partly because of the movement that comes with these Huntress abilities. Whirling Slash allows you to get into melee range really easily. Disengage is, again, I'm going to put it on a pedestal. My favorite skill from the Huntress, hands down. I feel like I got better at dodging the corrupted blood as well by just not moving, right? Like at some point I was constantly moving in that phase. I feel like not moving and then dodge rolling out of the way is better. You're going to see a clear visual on the boss here to indicate he can be culled, and I cull him with my empowered ranged attack. Act 1 complete on the Huntress. I'm going to pulp some data now, going over where I spent my time in all of Act 1. This time I got a pretty good red veil. The biggest outlier now is Freythorn. And it's something that I might talk about in future videos, but there is an idea of just skipping optional areas when you're running this stuff. And if I'm going to be doing this over and over and over again, I likely am going to lean more towards skipping optional content instead of doing it just for completionist's sake. Also, once I have enough data, I can kind of compare between classes, compare between builds. But for now, thanks for watching Episode 1, Act 1. We'll be doing Episode 2 next, hopefully clearing Act 2 deathless. I did in fact reset my character, so this is currently deathless, and I am hoping to get a revenge kill on Mighty Fist in Act 3, but we will see. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.